Welcome. Today, we're tackling a huge question, one that's on the mind of pretty much every parent and teacher out there. How do we look beyond just test scores, beyond report cards, to figure out what's really clicking inside a kid's brain?
Okay, so let's just jump right in, because this is a big one. We live in a world that's just obsessed with numbers and data, right? But when it comes to our kids, how do we get a real sense of how they're doing? We all just want to know they're on the right path. So, what's the best way to figure that out?
Our first instincts, it's almost always to look for something solid. A test score, a grade, that report card that comes home. We're kind of programmed to think, okay, that's the proof. But here's the thing, especially with little kids, that is almost never the whole story. Actually, if we only rely on those things, we might be missing the most important stuff entirely. Because sometimes the really deep insights, the aha moments about how a child is growing, they come from just this, simply sitting down with a child, being present, and just watching them. It's about tossing the checklist aside for a minute, and instead, kind of picking up a magnifying glass to see what's really going on in their world.
Okay, so let's really get into this. Why is this shift in how we think so important? Why is looking past a test score more than just a nice, fluffy idea? Why is it actually a way better and more accurate way to understand a kid?
So you've really got two different worlds when it comes to this stuff. On one side, you have standardized tests. And look, for young kids, these can be pretty unreliable. They're often based on these weird, made-up tasks that an adult came up with, and they can be confusing or even stressful for a little one. But then on the other side, you have something called authentic assessment. This is all about watching a kid in their natural habitat, seeing what they do in the real world. And that gives you a much truer picture of what they're capable of. And hey, this isn't just some random opinion. One of the biggest names in this field, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, you'll hear them called NAEC. They say it flat out. A kid's development is super complex, and it's not a straight line. So how can one test on one random day possibly capture all of that? It can't. It's really about watching them over time to get the full picture. So if we agree that formal tests are often the wrong tool for the job, then what's the right one? Well, it all comes down to getting really good at the art of observing.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we kind of have to change how we think about the word assessment itself. Get this. The word comes from the Latin assidiare, which literally means to sit with. Isn't that amazing? It completely reframes the whole idea. Assessment isn't this thing you do to a kid, it's something you do with them and for them. It's about being a partner, not a judge. And this quote from an educator named Anton just nails what that partnership looks like in the real world. He says it's all about discovery, finding out what a kid loves, how their brain works best, all so you can help them get to where they need to go in their own way.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But the big question is, where does this actually happen? Where are these magic moments of learning and insight?
Well, the awesome news is they're happening pretty much everywhere all the time. We're talking about three main areas here. First, and this is the big one, during free play and exploration. Second, just in the middle of everyday routines. Snack time, putting on shoes, that kind of thing. And third, sure, during activities that grown-ups plan. The point is, learning is baked into pretty much everything they do.
And I really want to double down on the power of play for a second. As this educator Jody says, play is basically the ultimate window into a child's mind. It's where you see how they think, what they're passionate about, how they're figuring out the world. It is so much more than just playing. And this is where it gets really cool, because observation isn't just sitting back and watching. It's more like being a detective. It's about actively decoding what you see and connecting those little everyday actions to the big ideas about how kids learn and grow. A great tool for this is a framework from the famous psychologist Jean Piaget. We're just going to focus on the first two stages for now. First, you have the sensory motor stage for infants and toddlers. This is all about physical learning through their senses by touching and moving things. Then, preschoolers move into what's called the pre-operational stage, and that's all about representation, using words, and a whole lot of pretend play. Okay, let's make this real. Check out these two examples. On one side, you have little Jonas. He's a toddler, and he's just piling up pillows and flopping into them, laughing his head off. It's a totally physical, sensory thing. Then over here, you have Daniel. He's a preschooler, and he's masterminded this whole post office game. He's got roles, a plan, a whole story going on.
See? This is where it all clicks into place. Jonas's pillow flopping, that's classic sensory motor learning. He's figuring out his body and gravity and cause and effect just by doing. And Daniel's post office game, that's pure pre-operational thinking. He's using make-believe to act out something from the real world. When you watch them, these big abstract theories suddenly become super clear and visible.
And it's not just about how they think. You can see their social skills evolving too. You can literally watch them climb this ladder of play. They might start by playing all by themselves. Then they might just watch other kids play. Then they'll move to playing next to another kid. That's called parallel play. And finally, they get to the top rung, playing with other kids, sharing an idea, working together. It's this beautiful, clear progression you can actually see.
All right, so we've talked about what this is and why it matters. Now for the really good part. How does this work in practice? How can one single, tiny observation give us this huge, rich understanding of a kid's progress?
Okay, this example with a little girl named Gabriella is just fantastic. It shows how much you can learn from just one moment. So she's playing store, right? In that one little game, look at what she's doing. She's using number names, so there's your math. She's writing on a little pad, so boom, literacy. And she's negotiating with a friend about the game. That's social skills right there. Just think about that for a second. One little note about one moment of play, and you got information on her math skills, her literacy skills, and her social skills, all at once. It's an unbelievably efficient and just whole way of seeing what a child can do.
And really, this is the whole point. You're collecting all these little moments, these little puzzle pieces of information over time. And when you step back and put them all together, you get this rich, detailed, and totally real picture of that one child's unique journey.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you see a kid just completely lost in their own world of play, stacking blocks, pretending to fly, whatever it is, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what story is their play telling you?